The first pillar that we are going to speak about is the pillar of the mind, because it's so important and it's so influential of our lives. When our mind is in its full potential, we are invincible, we are indestructible. Think about it, the natural state of the mind is an open space. It's like getting into infinity. There is no limits. We are actually the whole oneness that many spiritual teachings are speaking about. We have this divinity in the mind itself when we get to the natural state of the mind. But unfortunately, what happens is that we are actually experiencing more and more the monkey mind rather than the natural mind. So the yogic tradition are speaking about the monkey mind, as well as in the Buddhist tradition, the mind that is jumping from one branch to another, the mind that cannot stay put for one moment. And Shivananda made an even more interesting comment: the mind is like a monkey that is drunk and was bitten by a Scorpio. And many times this is how we feel. We have so much of this chatter in our mind that cannot stop. We are thinking and thinking and thinking. It's actually hindering our whole path, and we are actually having hard time to sleep and hard time to progress in life because the mind is stopping us. There is a beautiful story that speaks about the son of the slave and the son of the queen that were swapped. It's like, so someone wanted to make kind of a joke and they wanted to see what will happen, and they swap the son of the king, and they put them in the crib of the son of the slave, and the son of the slave they put in the crib of the son of the king. And then they saw what happened later on. And in a way, even this beginning of the story is telling us so much about the mind. The mind is controlling us instead of us, the higher state of us, or the higher mind controlling the mind. Instead of the mind serving us, it becomes the king, and we follow everything that the mind wants. And in this day and age of constant stimulations, it's very chaotic. It's like a jungle. We are going from one thing to another thing, from one thing to another thing, without any focus. And in this way, we cannot really fulfill ourselves. We cannot really get what we want in life. This is really important. Many times we don't even know what we want in life because of all the noise that we have inside of our mind. So the first level of this pillar is actually to cleanse the mind. Another metaphor that comes from a beautiful Tibetan Buddhist teacher is that the mind is like an ocean, and they have so much of a covering of this ocean. Like, unfortunately, in the Pacific Ocean right now, there are so much of plastic. There are several of miles that are just covered with plastic, and you cannot see the ocean itself. And in the same way, the mind is covered with so many thoughts and so many worries, so many emotions that are covering the true nature of the mind, the expansiveness of the mind, the fullness of the mind. So what we see is only the plastic, and what we experience is only the plastic, but actually the mind is the ocean itself. So the first stage of just really getting into meditation and getting into the method that we are teaching is like clearing out the plastic, clearing out the thoughts, and clearing out this attachment and identification with the thoughts. And how do we do that? We actually need to relax and pay attention to our thoughts themselves. As you probably know, we have 4 pillars of mindfulness. Mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of breathing, mindfulness of the mind, and mindfulness of the Dharma. And the third one is so important, being aware of the mind itself. The thing is that we can actually be aware of our thoughts, and the same mind that is thinking the thought can be aware of the same thoughts. So we can actually bring an awareness, like a gaze at our thoughts. And this is an amazing quality that the mind can do. So we want to take advantage of that and have a metacognizance, an understanding of how the mind is working, paying attention to how our thoughts operates, and this by itself already cleaning the mind. So we are going to pay attention to our breath, and obviously a thought will come up, and we don't want to get upset from that. This is very common. This is what happens. This is what the mind do. The mind is thinking, and if we are doing it for the last 15 years or 20 years or 35 years of just like thinking and thinking and thinking all day long, it's very difficult to stop the thoughts and actually impossible. But what we can do is to react to the thoughts in a different way. We have to become aware to the thought. So if we are in this mindfulness of breathing and then a thought arises, we just note the thought. We note it, we see that it's there, we acknowledge in its existence. And then after that, we know it. What does it mean to know it? We know that it comes and goes. We know that it's maybe at that moment not that important. We know that we can let it go, which is the third stage. So note it, know it, let it go. We see that it comes, we acknowledge that, we understand that it's there, we understand that it will go at some point, and we allow it to dissipate, we allow it to let it go, and to release it, and go back to the breathing. This will be the fourth stage, and just by doing that on a regular basis, we clean our mind. The next stage of the mind pillar will be investigation, it will be insight. So it's not only that we want to clear all the plastic and to see the ocean itself. It's not only that we want to not identify with the thoughts that we have. We want to actually to see the nature of the mind. We want actually to see and explore the ocean. We want to see the different life that is in it. We want to understand it. We want to live in it. We want to see how great is the potential of the mind. And this is done by investigation, by inquiry, by exploration that we do after we have this clarity. We cannot do the exploration before we have the clarity because we are covered with all the plastic, as we mentioned before. But after we clear the plastic, after we do the first stage of just cleansing the mind, we get into the exploration part, which is really important. And then the next part would be cutting through. It would be going even higher than that and unify ourselves with the true nature of the mind, with the higher self, which is really the goal of this pillar, to bring ourselves into the highest point in our evolution, to bring ourselves into a complete unity and to be who we really are with all the potential that we have, with all the forces that we have, which is such an exciting goal and such a beautiful journey to go through. There is an enormous benefit of working on the mind regularly. If we do not work on the mind, it doesn't matter what we want to achieve, it will be very, very difficult or if even impossible to achieve. We want to have focus. If our life is in chaos, if our mind is in chaos, we will never be able to really achieve what we want. So we want to bring focus. And when we bring this clarity to the mind, when we bring this focus into our life, we can actually get step by step really achieving what we want, and we feel so much better, and we understand what is important for us, and we have priorities, and we can enjoy a quality of life. So it's not only just a spiritual quest, it's actually bringing us into a much healthier way of living that we want to accomplish. This path is so beautiful because after a while, when we are doing it, we just get in love with reality. We are getting in love with ourselves and with the mind and the enormous power that the mind has. So instead of being controlled by the mind, we are actually having the mind as the best friend, as the servant, as someone that can actually help us to elevate ourselves. So the path of the mind is all about gaining clarity, focus, wisdom, and realization.